Listen, man. Let's get into that though, man. You out here with the burnt orange. You doing your thing. Let's talk about it, bro.
Uh, bro, uh, the Texas boys came through. Super proud about it. The game was, if you're not from Texas or Oklahoma, like you're not invested in the Red River rivalry, then people would say, "Oh, this was a boring game." No, it was a very competitive game. It was a defensive game, and one of the offenses finally broke through. Special teams broke through. Arch didn't have any turnovers, and Mateer had three interceptions, which could have actually been more. So, the Texas defense capitalized on off all of that. They gained momentum going into the half. They came out in the third quarter and scored, which is something we've struggled to do pretty much this season. So for it to all go down the way that it did, yeah, it was a great game. What about you?
And so listen, man, I think that this is the one thing I think that I don't think that people quite when I try to explain this to people, I don't know that people quite even get it though, right? Because like when we talk about in being in Georgia and I'm surrounded by a bunch of Georgia Bulldog fans, I don't necessarily know that Georgia has any one true rival. I could be wrong. Because Georgia Tech isn't that much of a rival. Every once in a while, they'll have a competitive game where they play against each other, and Georgia Tech might pull an upset. Um, and then it's like, generally speaking, I mean, it's like you got the rest of the SEC in that you got your Alabamas, you got your Auburns, you got your Floridas who Georgia typically plays. So it's a lot difficult to explain. It would be almost like, regardless of records, an Alabama fan would say Auburn is our rival, right? And so for me, that's the closest I can kind of compare to when I'm explaining to somebody the significance of the Texas OU game. It's a regardless of the records game. It's regardless of if you win the national championships, because where with Texas, you can win a national championship if you OU. And a Texas fan will say, "Well, did you beat us in the process? Because if you didn't beat us, that's really to us all that matters. Like, it's an asterisk by your dub." And so that's how I look at it. If you're an OU fan, if Texas wins a national championship without beating OU, then for the sake of the rivalry, it's like, all right, cool, y'all did, but y'all ain't beat us that year though. So I love I love the rivalry, but here's the thing I think that's interesting, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think that Arch Manning saved his Longhorn legacy and may have could start to repair some things, right? Because had he have lost this game, I think you would have had people start to look at the bench and say, "Who else we got? Who else is down there?" Right? It's one of those things where I think that like I said, the narrative, right, from Arch Manning is that he was this transcendent, can't miss prospect that he was gonna take over and everything was gonna be cool. And never mind the gaps and everything like that we need to fill. It was almost as if he was enough, though, right? And so so far, with him being the starter, I'm trying to give him some grace. But if I'm being honest and I'm trying to take my bias out of it because I want him to be great so bad, you could very easily say, "All right, listen, bro, you seem to like to beat up on the sorry teams, basically, though, man." And I think that I didn't want that for him specifically, though, bro. So I thought that he kind of saved it for the sake of where we see this thing with the rivalry, though. But if he would have lost, though, man, oh my gosh, that would have been a hard one to climb over, bro.
I disagree on a couple of points. One, him beating up on sorry teams because the Florida game wasn't Arch. The Florida game was the offensive line. He had no protection. He was almost running for his life the whole game, and that game showed me what I needed to see for Arch because he never gave up and he stayed poised the entire game, whether we was up or down. That showed me enough to knew that all right, he's like, yeah, when you put up the numbers between him and his uncles, he's around the same spot they were when they started out. So he's living up to his Manning name. People just expected him to be further along than what he is, and he has the same numbers as his uncles. So
See, that's a little misleading to me though,
how's that
bro.
misleading?
That's to me, that's what's misleading about that is that you are basically comparing his first 5 games or so, which I'm assuming that what you're doing, 5 or 6. And I think that for them, those games started much earlier on in their career than him. He is getting his first 5 starts as a junior. If I'm not mistaken, Peyton and Eli started their first 5 games as either freshman or sophomore. So it's to me that's not the same thing to say that
No,
he is
no,
where
no.
they are
He 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 is starting now. It doesn't
as a
matter.
junior.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that does matter. That
No,
does
it doesn't.
matter. You know
No,
what?
it doesn't.
You know the reason why that matters to me?
Why is
That
that?
matters to me. That matters to me because if Peyton Manning started his first 5 games as a freshman, then to me that means that the day that he got on campus, he was better than everybody else who was lined up for quarterback before him. And they said, "Hey, you are the guy right now." So you taking those lumps as a freshman to me is different from you taking those kind of lumps and learning opportunities as a junior. That 2 year gap makes a hell of a lot difference. And so to me, the comparison is, well, how did Eli look as a junior? How did Peyton look as a junior in their first 5 games? And if
But
you
let me
look
ask
at
you
it
this.
from that lens, they're
Let me ask you
totally
this.
different.
Let me ask you this. Did Arch start as a freshman?
No,
Okay, hold on. So if he didn't start as a freshman, that has nothing to do with the fact of when he started because it's not like he got reps. He
it
didn't
has
start.
everything to do with it. That has see that's we so that's where it's perspective because that has everything to do with it. To me, when you say, "Hey, you know what? He at the within the first 6 games of his career, he's right on par with Peyton and Eli," and it's like, well, no, that's not exactly true because the difference is that he is about 20 years old right now. Peyton and Eli were 18 years old. That's a big difference. That's a 2 year difference. Don't get me wrong. The opportunities, yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying is that the reason why that makes a difference because when you say someone getting their first 6 games as a freshman and someone else getting their first 6 games as a junior, that is a big difference. That's a
That's when the
2 year worth of
opportunity starts for
experience.
them to play, though. No, it's not no 2 years of
Ah,
experience. Where's the experience at?
right. That's that. So I think that listen, that's where I think that we're looking at that differently though,
Right.
right? Because
What
to
I'm saying
me,
is, this is the thing. To me, your experience starts when you get the opportunity to lead. You haven't had the
right, no, so
opportunity.
my thing is this. Okay, this is what I'm saying. The comparison would be Arch Manning gets there, right? And when Arch Manning gets on campus, someone says, hell yeah, he is 1,000% better than Quinn Ewers, and we have our chance of winning with him right now. So even though Quinn Ewers is there, the comparison to Eli and Peyton would be freshman, put him in there day one. That's what Arch would be if you want to compare the two. Now, and now
No,
listen,
no.
I'm not talking about you can say I'm only saying this from the standpoint of if we're going to compare him to them,
I am
right?
comparing. No, the comparison is when did they start? That's the comparison. So when Eli started and when Arch started, these are the numbers. That's the comparison. Not that
I
he's a
don't
freshman or he's a junior.
that see, but that makes the difference though, right? To
Doesn't
me,
make a
that
difference.
makes the big difference. Well, if it don't make a difference, it don't make a difference. I'm just trying to tell you that that's to me, that's almost like don't
That's
get me
why.
wrong.
So the
In
point is
college
that
football,
the whole thing is that's exactly why I don't agree with you because you have a different starting measure than even I do. Because my thing is that how can I measure when how can I measure your ability if you never had the opportunity to play?
that's fair to say that, but what I'm saying is that to me, it would be obvious. Someone would have listened. It's like this. Okay, it's like this. It to me, it's like this. it's almost very equivalent to um, Pat Mahomes and Alex Smith. Alex Smith been a Pro Bowl player and he was an AFC Championship quarterback. He didn't win it, but got him to the AFC Championship, right? And Pat Mahomes in his first year within the practices, right? They say, you know what? We've seen enough. We can go ahead and let him go now. And so that's the
No, no,
reason
no,
why,
no.
to
Alex
me,
Smith got
no,
hurt before Pat came in there, bro.
no,
Yes.
listen, no, 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 no.
Let me go ahead
That's
and
not.
pull. You go
Listen,
ahead and keep talking. I'm
you
gonna
got to
pull it up.
look it up. Alex, they felt comfortable with letting Alex Smith slide on out. And Alex Smith didn't get hurt until he went to Washington, but they let him go. And because they knew, they saw enough in practices to say he's better than him, though. And that's what I'm saying. Like, to me, when you want to do, and listen, I think that don't get me wrong, I think that Arch Manning's first 5 games or 6 games, however you want to measure merit, you can measure that by its own merit. But I think that to compare it to Peyton and Eli isn't a fair comparison, only because he's starting his later in his college career than they started theirs earlier. So the responsibility is different. The opportunities that you said, where he's like, oh, he's still trying to show you that he's poised. They had to do that as freshmen. He's having to do that as a junior, and the expectation is that you should be miles ahead of them. Like his numbers statistically should be significantly better than Peyton and Eli's if you're going by that measure, though, because he is more experienced as he is more experienced coming in as a backup, whereas they got their experience out the mud as starters, though, bro, from day one.
Like I said, that's still a different measuring stick for me because I can't put you, if you ain't on the field, I can't say, well, you didn't start as a freshman, so I got to start you from there. No. When did you start? When did you start? What are the numbers?
I feel that, and don't get me wrong, that makes sense, right? But I'm just saying that to me makes sense if you're comparing to me another junior starting for the first time, right? But when you say, well, yeah, my first 5 games, man, I'm 4-1, you know what I'm saying? And I got uh 20 touchdowns, right? And you're a junior. And then someone say, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, bro over there did the same thing, but he was a freshman. Like, then we're not talking about the same caliber of players, because somebody saw it in bro over here from day one. Right. And it wasn't no, and don't get me wrong, I do respect the fact that they said no, Quinn Ewers is our guy, though, right? And he said, all right, that's cool. But I'm just saying, though, if you're measuring it to the Peyton and Eli, there was a Quinn Ewers there before he got there, before they got there. So that's what I'm saying. They just said, nah. But I get it. I get that if you want to go by the first 5 starts of their career, I get that the numbers are very similar. I don't think that that's a flattering thing for Arch Manning to me, though. That comparison. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, again, that's why I said we already starting at a disadvantage because we don't even agree on the terms. But either way, I still saw enough in the Florida game to where I felt comfortable with where we ended up with during the OU game. Now, I say that still with questions because again, if it's not Arch, then what was up with our offensive line against Florida? What was up with our defense against Florida? You know what I'm saying? So it was the team at that point. So I
Here's the
do
thing, though.
like the fact that Sark made adjustments to work with the personnel that he has versus the personnel that he had last year.
Because I didn't see Sark make good personnel adjustments in the championship game last year against Georgia, for one. So I agree with you on that. But what I'm saying is that, are you telling me then, by that measure, that we're talking about SEC caliber? So and I haven't watched a lot of OU games. But is Florida's defensive line that much better than OU's defensive line? Because I didn't think so.
I don't either. But what I also now their defensive line OU is better, but the problem is you also had a Florida team who had a chip on their shoulder, who knew that hey, this team is supposedly coming in. They are better than us. Whoop de whoop de whoop. There's no excuses for the Florida game. We got beat. There's no
Oh, yeah, yeah,
excuses.
yeah.
But at the same token, I'm what I'm saying is if that had a carried over to the OU game where we were still missing assignments, missing tackles, not getting to the quarterback, like not doing the things that our defense has set to been doing in the very beginning of the season, that would have been problem. So the fact that they made adjustments and they heard the noise that was going on within the team and they came and executed, that's what I appreciated about the fact that we did do that.
I can see that.
I can see
I
that.
can see that.
I can see
I
that.
think for me, I just what I'd like to see, what I would like to see Arch Manning do is I would love nothing more than to see him, and it might not even be who he is, right? But I would love to see him, Tim Tebow, that thing, where in those scenarios, right, where where you see it's a Florida and you're borderline when you think that like Tim Tebow used to have a way of just saying, nah, I'm gonna put everything on my back. I'm gonna galvanize the troops. It's gonna be on me. I'm gonna be the difference maker. And I hope that maybe Arch, maybe it's still room for him to do that.
I
I
still
was expecting that this season. Like I would don't get like I'm talking about in the Ohio State game. I wanted I wanted to be where yeah, this is other, and maybe this is unfair to him. But what I wanted him to be, I wanted him to be the Vince Young in the USC game, where it's like you got all of this, but we got Vince Young, and he was the one to do it. And it's because, yeah, OSU probably had a more talented roster, but we got Vince Young. And maybe I wanted Arch Manning, and it's not too late, but I wanted the difference in every game to be that we got Arch Manning and you don't.
right, but that's the thing. You wanted Vince Young, who won the national championship on game one.
Yes,
In game one, and that's what I'm saying. That is a very much unfair, unrealistic expectation,
I don't think so. I don't think so. I
bro.
don't
Come
think
on,
so.
this is what I've been telling y'all Texas fans, bro. Y'all boys had all this expectation for Arch when, like you said, he couldn't beat Quinn in the quarterback competition to win the spot,
Well, that
and
so
now
see, the advertisement of them did it for me. Like, don't get me wrong.
but the
I
advertisement is one thing, but execution is another. So what I'm saying is,
true.
when he came to training day and when he came the beginning of the season, he had an opportunity to beat Quinn out. It was a quarterback battle, and Quinn won the starting job. Even when Quinn got hurt, it was already expected when Quinn got done being injured, he was going to get the start back, and that's exactly what happened. So that's what I'm saying. Obviously, they knew Quinn was a better quarterback.
Guess what?
What's
In
up?
that scenario, Peyton Manning beats out Quinn Ewers. There was a Eli Manning. Listen, there was a Quinn Ewers when they arrived on campus. That's what I'm saying. That's just a circle back
So,
to that.
okay, so if with that what you're saying, with what you're saying, then your expectations for him to be Vince Young is not fair. Because
No, no, no,
if he
no,
could,
no, no,
so
no, no, no,
okay,
no,
let me
no.
ask you a
My
question.
thing is this.
Is Vince Young better than Quinn Ewers?
Yes.
So if Vince Young is better than Quinn Ewers, and Arch couldn't beat Quinn in a quarterback battle, then why'd you expect him to be Vince Young?
Well, because I expect the same thing from Quinn Ewers. I expected Quinn Ewers to also be a guy that when I say Vince Young, I'm saying listen, Quinn Ewers almost did a Vince Young, right? I'm talking about a guy who's gonna lead Texas to a national championship. I'm not saying that listen, and all I'm saying is that lead us to a national championship, right? And Quinn Ewers got there, he fell short. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that okay, well, now, my expectation, right, is that Arch Manning, who's had ample amount of time to be prepared, I would expect for him to say, I'm taking the reins. And now that I'm more experienced now, right, from being a backup for getting spot minutes that Quinn Ewers wasn't afforded, right, that Vince Young wasn't afforded, then I'm thinking that he has been more prepared than most of the starting quarterbacks from Texas that have been this highly rated, this highly advertised. That's all I'm saying.
He had no experience. He came in 2 games against some high school teams. And he did the
Listen, man.
exact same thing to the high school teams that we played in the beginning of the season and struggled with
Listen,
one.
man. This is my thing, bro. My thing is that advertisement. Quinn Ewers was advertised as a listen. Quinn Ewers was also advertised as a generational talent at quarterback, though, bro. So when you say generational, to me, that's Tim Tebow. That in college football, that's Tim Tebow. That's there's only a handful of generational players, right? That I can think of truly generational players that come out of high school, right? That are that way. And so Quinn Ewers was one of them, right? I think Quinn Ewers, Andrew Luck, these were quarterbacks. Like I think that there had never been a quarterback coming out of high school that was rated higher than Quinn Ewers ever, right? Ever. And so my expectation is okay. Well, so then it had me thinking when Quinn Ewers went out to OSU, he did it for the bread. I get it. There was $1 million. I'm not gonna hold that against him. But he comes to Texas, and I didn't forget that he was the number one rated player, right? So my expectation is that when he gets to Texas and he starts right away, that okay, well, it's on then, right? I'm gonna give you the first year as a mulligan. Year two, now we talking. Like I don't think that the and listen, my thing is
This
that
is year
I
one for
think that
Arch.
right. So what I'm saying is this: I think that the expectations are like Quinn Ewers came in when he started, he had no previous runs. It was just no mop up duty. He just was that guy put in there from day one, right? And that means something to me. And I think that my thing is that seeing that Arch has came in spots, and I think that seeing that he's in year three now, basically, I just thought that he would be better prepared, right? To go ahead and say no, it's always going to have high. We're going to have high ranked recruits. He's going to have players around him, right? And my thing is that I thought that he is recruited in such a way that well, we got him and y'all don't, and that's what matters. That's the difference. That's what teeters the scale. We got him and y'all don't.
Well, outside of Arch, what else do you feel about the game?
So outside of that, let me tell you this though, bro. So outside of that, I'm gonna be completely honest with you though, bro. I think that OU's quarterback I think that while he just coming off an injury, people were talking like this guy could be a contender for the Heisman, though, bro. And I was just like, all right, bro, either you are not what they say you were, or you were still a little bit, what I'm saying, injured. And I don't know, but he didn't look nothing at all. You know what he looked like to me? He looked
Well,
like Dylan Gabriel did to me, though, bro.
no. Here's the thing. I'm gonna shoot him some bail. He had a terrible game because John Mateer is a he. If you watched him in any other game, he's that dude. He had a
Hey,
horrible game. And hey, and he owned up to it after the press conference too. At the press conference,
hey,
he said, "Listen, I couldn't. My eyes was. I couldn't even catch. I couldn't do it."
hey, listen. Hey, listen. Dylan Gabriel went on up there to Oregon and he put up some numbers. But when I saw him against Texas, that boy looked very pedestrian, to say the least. And so my thing is that I understand everything you saying. I'm saying when I saw you against us, what did you look like against us? Because
Hey,
just like to your point, we said earlier, I don't care what you do against any other team. And if you're Dylan Gabriel, I don't care that you out here in Oregon running up numbers. When I saw you out here in Texas, you looked like you was a scrub almost, though,
well,
bro.
listen. This is my thing. You stepped on the field, so it's fair game. Meaning that,
Facts.
and then if you Michael Hawkins Jr., if I see you throw 3 interceptions, your hand bleeding, you just came back from surgery, and they still won't put you in, you got to transfer.
Uh,
You got to transfer.
hey, 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 listen, man. That's not hey, I get it. Because if they ain't putting you in then, bro, and he's there, I don't see when you gonna ever get in there though, bro.
Nah, you
Didn't
it's
didn't your
over.
boy didn't your boy Major Booty? Didn't he transfer also?
Yeah, he went to like Louisiana Tech or somewhere like that. We ended up
Yeah.
playing against him like last year. But
Did Booty get in?
I think he was the starter out there or something like that. But either way, I
Yeah.
mean, shoot, even Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold went to Auburn.
Yeah. Listen, he's another one. Like when I see Jackson Arnold out there at Auburn, and they be trying to talk up these Auburn quarterbacks, and I think he's so mid to me though, bro. And it's just because and listen, I know what happened when we played against him when he was
True,
there.
but he had a system that works for him. You know what I'm saying? And so it is what it is. Um,
I don't know.
Either way though, I'm grateful we won.
I'm
Uh,
grateful we won this. I'm grateful that we won, but I'm not gonna say like I just would I was expecting that we would. I know that we lost a lot of guys to the NFL, so I can I can understand where there should be some grace, but teams reload every year though, bro. And I thought that this was just us reloading as well this year. I didn't think that we'd be set back like that.
Wisner was a baller Saturday.
Yeah.
He was running all over OU, and for them to have that type of defense, that was embarrassing. Um, yeah, I'm very very proud of the fact that we won. Me and Sarah was out yesterday. We went to lunch, and every time I'm wearing Texas stuff, somebody got something to say. Somebody was walking out. He was like, "Oh, boo, boo." What you booing for? You scared? I mean, you got something against a winner? He was like, "Well, y'all
Got
got
the
2 losses."
dubs.
Right.
We
He said,
got
"Y'all
the
got 2 losses."
dubs.
I said, "But guess who it ain't by? It ain't by y'all. He ain't had nothing to say."
Now that's that. Y'all got one loss. Guess who that's by?
Remember
I
that.
don't know. It's fun. I think that to be honest with you though, bro, I think that for me, the fun in this is in the Texas OU game for me is it's the only for as far as me and teams that and team sports that I like. It's the only rivalry that I really follow and the only one that I'm passionate about. Like I don't look at like I hate the Dallas Cowboys, but you know what I'm saying? The Saints don't play them. They're not rivals. I just hate Dallas. And I hate Dallas so much that I don't particularly consider like the Falcons. I don't hate Falcons. I don't even hate Falcons fans like that because they haven't won anything for me to think that they're like, that we've only won one that's one more than them. So, if I'm taking myself outside of it, it's like I'm looking at two mid to lower tier teams and saying, well, why exactly are y'all beefing with each other when neither one of y'all have had this illustrious winning history. So so the Texas OU game is it for me. And so yeah. I get down. I'm bought into this one.